It was a regular Thursday afternoon, the kind that passed unnoticed until life decided to throw a curveball. I was sitting in my truck, just back from a grueling training session. My name's Matt, and I'm a soldier. A life of discipline and structure, protecting the ones I love, was all I knew. But I didn't know that love was slowly unraveling behind my back. When I stepped inside, my daughter Lily ran to me, her bright eyes lighting up. "Daddy, I missed you." She giggled. I kissed her forehead, setting her down before noticing something off about Emily, my wife. She was distant, robotic. She barely looked at me when I walked in, and her usual warmth was gone. After dinner, I watched Emily, who was scrolling through her phone, distracted. Something felt wrong, but I brushed it off, telling myself I was just paranoid. With a few hours before another training session, I stepped outside to clear my mind. But when I heard a car door shut, I froze. Across the street, an unfamiliar black sedan sat quietly, its headlights dimmed. A chill ran through me. My instincts screamed something was wrong. Emily had said something about a work meeting, but there was no sign of colleagues, and the car had no markings. The last time I ignored my instincts, it nearly cost me my life. I wasn't going to make that mistake again. Back inside, Emily was still glued to her phone, her attention completely absorbed. A nagging feeling settled in my chest, like she was hiding something. I moved to the kitchen, grabbed a drink, and tried to shake off the suspicion. But the uneasy feeling of being watched lingered, clouding my thoughts. As I leaned against the counter, a faint sound came from upstairs, a soft thud, followed by a muffled voice. I froze, then quickly climbed the stairs, my heart pounding in my chest. Was Lily okay? I reached her bedroom door just as I saw Emily darting toward the hallway, her footsteps hurried and tense. She caught sight of me and froze. "Matt, what are you doing up here?" Her voice had a hint of panic, which only made my suspicion grow. "I heard something," I said, my tone sharp. "What's going on, Emily?" Her eyes darted away from mine, but she quickly recovered, plastering a fake smile on her face. "It's nothing. Just me thinking too much." But something in the way she said it made my blood run cold. It wasn't just nothing. It was a lie. My hand clenched into a fist as I looked past her, toward the crack of the door. I could have sworn I saw a shadow move inside. Suddenly, I heard it again, the unmistakable sound of a voice, low and urgent, talking to Lily. My heart skipped a beat. Who was in my daughter's room? Without another thought, I pushed past Emily, throwing open the door. What I saw was something I never expected. There, in the dim light of Lily's bedroom, stood a man. A stranger! He was tall, wearing dark clothes, his face partially obscured by the shadows. And there was Lily, my sweet, innocent daughter, sitting on the bed, her face pale with fear as she stared at the man. The air in the room felt thick with tension. The man turned sharply as I stepped forward, his eyes meeting mine. I didn't recognize him, but the expression on his face told me everything I needed to know. This was no innocent encounter. "Get away from my daughter!" I roared, adrenaline surging through me. The man didn't move immediately, and that split second felt like an eternity. I reached for the nearest object, a wooden chair, and swung it toward him, desperate to protect Lily. But before I could make contact, he sidestepped, and I felt his hand on my shoulder, pushing me back with surprising strength. Emily stood frozen in the doorway, her eyes wide with fear. "Matt, stop!" she pleaded, her voice barely a whisper. "It's not what you think." But I wasn't listening. I couldn't. I was seeing red. I shoved the man back, and he stumbled into the wall. That's when I saw it, the glint of a small phone in his hand, with pictures of Emily. My wife, the woman I trusted with my life, was in his pictures, laughing and kissing him. I felt my chest tighten as everything hit me at once. Betrayal. Fear. Anger. I turned to Emily, my voice low and dangerous. "What is this? Who is he?" She looked away, guilt written all over her face, as tears welled up in her eyes. "Matt, I'm so sorry." But those words didn't mean anything to me anymore. This wasn't just about a marriage falling apart. This was about something far worse, a danger to my daughter, someone exploiting my family, and I had to stop it. This man wasn't just Emily's lover. He was a threat I was going to deal with. And I was ready to unleash a kind of revenge that no one would ever forget. Time seemed to freeze. The man, still stunned from being shoved, pressed his back against the wall, eyes wide, mouth slightly open as if searching for words but finding none. Emily's face was full of remorse, but it didn't matter now. The damage was done. I couldn't look at her the way I once did, not after the betrayal, the secret life, and worst of all, the danger she had brought into our home. I could barely hear Emily's pleas, her whispers begging me to understand. But the terror in Lily's eyes, knowing a stranger had invaded our home, drowned out everything else. My mind wasn't thinking clearly. I was thinking like a soldier, like a father, someone willing to do anything to protect his family. That's when dark thoughts crept in. "Who the hell are you?" I demanded again, my voice low, threatening as I stepped toward the man. His eyes flicked between me and Emily, panic written all over his face. I'm just a friend of Emily's," he stammered, trying to sound casual, but his voice cracked. I didn't mean for it to go this far. We were just— "Don't you dare!" I interrupted, rage boiling over. "You think you can just walk into my house, into my daughter's life, and call it a mistake?" Emily stepped forward, hands shaking, but I didn't want to hear her anymore. I didn't care about her excuses. The damage was done. "You brought him here?" I spat, turning to Emily, my voice cold. "You brought him into our home. You brought him into Lily's life. How long has this been going on, Emily? How long have you been lying to me?" The room felt suffocating as my anger surged. I couldn't control it. Emily's voice quivered as she spoke, tear-filled eyes searching for the right words. "I never meant to hurt you, Matt. I never meant for it to go this far. But I've felt so alone for so long. You've been gone so much." I shook my head, cutting her off. "You think that's an excuse?" I spat. "You think it's okay to risk everything because you felt alone? We have a daughter. You don't get to destroy this family because of your mistakes. You've destroyed us both." My voice cracked, but I swallowed the pain. The last thing I wanted was for that man to see my weakness. He had already seen too much. He didn't belong here. I turned back to the man, eyes narrowing. "You want to play games with my family? You want to terrorize my daughter?" My fists clenched. The soldier inside me took over. "You've made a mistake coming here tonight." He stood a little taller, but fear still showed in his eyes. "Look, I didn't mean for this to happen, I swear." He backed away, his voice desperate. "I was just trying to—" Before he could finish, I moved fast, grabbing him by the collar and slamming him back against the wall. He gasped, his pulse racing under my grip. "You don't get to talk," I growled. "You're a coward, hiding behind my wife. You're nothing but a predator. And I'm going to make sure you never forget this night. You're not leaving here alive, you understand?" Emily screamed as she rushed toward me, but I stood my ground. "Matt, please," she begged, her voice trembling with fear and desperation. "This is not you. Please, don't do this." Her pleading only fueled the fire burning inside me. I wasn't hearing her anymore. I was consumed by rage. The sense of violation. The terror in Lily's eyes. It was too much, too many things I couldn't control. Now, I was going to take control in the only way I knew how. I grabbed the man, dragging him toward the front door. The tension between us was thick. He tried to resist, but he was no match for me. I'd been trained for situations like this. I knew how to break people down, how to make them feel powerless. And that's exactly what I planned to do. When we reached the door, I shoved him onto the porch, the cold night air biting at his face. I stood over him, chest heaving with fury. "This is the last time you come near my family," I growled. The man looked up at me, terror in his eyes, and nodded quickly. "I swear I won't come back." "I'm sorry. I didn't mean for this to happen. Please, just let me go." But I didn't care about his apologies. He had no place in my life anymore. With one final shove, I sent him stumbling into the driveway, watching him scramble to his car and drive off. I stood there for a long moment, feeling the weight of everything crashing down on me. I'd confronted my wife's lover, kicked him out of our home, but the betrayal still gnawed at me. The pain of knowing that Emily had brought someone else into our lives, it didn't just hurt my heart, it hurt my soul. And worse, it hurt Lily. I didn't know how I could ever forgive her for this. I turned back toward the house, unsure if I was walking into the same life I had left behind. The door slammed behind me, and I felt like I was leaving something broken in my wake. Inside, Emily stood in the hallway, her eyes full of guilt and regret. But it was too late for apologies. I stepped into Lily's room. The darkness wrapped around her like a shield. She lay curled beneath her blankets, eyes wide open, staring at the ceiling. She didn't move, didn't speak. But I felt her fear, her uncertainty. My heart shattered all over again. I sat on the edge of her bed, brushing a strand of hair from her forehead. "You're safe, Lily," I whispered. "I'll always protect you." But as I stood to leave, a weight settled over me. The battle wasn't over. Emily's betrayal was just the beginning. And I would make sure every single person who had dared to threaten my family would feel the full wrath of my revenge. The house felt empty. A silence I had never known before pressed in, thick and suffocating. My boots echoed on the hardwood floors as I moved through the halls. The weight of the night's events settled in my bones, but the cold fury inside me burned hotter. I had never felt more betrayed. Emily, the woman I married, the mother of my child, had destroyed everything. I thought I knew her. I thought I could trust her. But now, all I saw was a stranger. A woman who had thrown away our family for something meaningless. And the man who had dared to bring terror into my daughter's life, he had no idea what he had just unleashed. I walked into the living room. Emily stood there, her eyes swollen from crying. She opened her mouth, but I didn't want to hear it. I didn't care for apologies anymore. "You don't get to say sorry," I said, my voice low and controlled. "Not now. Not after this. I can't even look at you." She flinched, as if I had struck her. Maybe my words hurt, but not nearly as much as what she had done to me. She had shattered the trust we built, and now she had to live with the consequences. I turned away, walking toward the door. My mind was made up. There was no going back. The man who had been in my home, near my daughter, he was still out there. And I couldn't let that stand. Emily's voice trembled behind me. "Matt, please. Please don't do anything reckless." I didn't look back. Her pleas meant nothing to me now. This wasn't about her anymore. This was about Lily. About making sure no one ever dared to hurt her again. I stepped outside. The cold night air bit at my skin as I climbed into my truck. My hands tightened around the steering wheel, knuckles white. There was one man who could help me end this. I drove to the outskirts of town, where the shadows swallowed the streets. I pulled into a deserted lot, headlights cutting through the darkness. A figure stepped out from the alley, waiting. Trent. We had served together. A soldier like me. And when I needed something done outside the law, he was the one I called. I stepped out of the truck, meeting him near the warehouse door. His sharp eyes flicked over me, reading everything in an instant. "You're looking for something tonight, Matt," Trent said. I nodded. "I need you to find a man, and I need him gone." Trent raised an eyebrow. "Gone how?" I didn't hesitate. "Make sure he never touches my family again." He studied me for a long moment, then exhaled. "You sure? There's no coming back from this." "I don't care." Trent nodded slowly. "All right. I'll handle it." I turned to leave, but his voice stopped me. Revenge doesn't always bring peace, you know. I met his gaze, unflinching. I'll live with that. The next few days blurred together. Emily tried to talk to me, but her words fell on deaf ears. There was nothing left to say. My only concern was Lily. Keeping her safe. Then the call came. Trent's voice was steady, final. "It's done." I stood there, gripping the phone. There was no relief. No satisfaction. Just nothing. I had done what needed to be done, but something inside me felt hollow, something I wasn't sure I could ever get back. When I stepped back into the house, Emily was waiting on the couch. Her hands trembled as she looked up at me. Her voice was barely a whisper. "Matt, I never wanted to hurt you." I stared at her, silent. What could I even say? She had made her choice, and now we live with the consequences. Without another word, I turned away, heading upstairs. I didn't know if Emily and I could ever fix this. I didn't know if trust could ever be rebuilt. But one thing was certain. No one would ever threaten my daughter again. And if they did, they wouldn't live long enough to regret it.